Well, I think it's top of the morning to you all. I hope everybody's well. Welcome to Mortgage Livestream. It's the Monday, 26th of April, almost May, almost June, almost summer. Who'd have thought of that? When things looked really downtrodden, didn't they, last January? I'm good, all good. Enjoying the sunshine. Probably burnt my nose yesterday, actually, in the sunshine a bit too much, really. But there we go. I'll enjoy it along the way. Why not? Lots going on in the mortgage sector at the moment. Things are really bubbling, aren't they? Lenders are becoming more or less cautious in their lending. The 95% loans are coming on stream now, which is driving the pricing down, which is lovely to see as well for first-time buyers. Usually around about the under 4% for a 5-year fix, which is nice. Getting easier for self-employed people to borrow. Nationwide talked about bonuses, commissions coming back into the affordability. So all good news. It's important because house prices are going up and the British economy is about to boom, they reckon. There's forecast of 6-7% growth this year, which makes sense really at the end of the day. But be careful of that one because that's a consumption boom. That's a domestic consumption boom. It's not exporting. We don't do much of that, do we? That's a consumption boom, which will drive up demand for stuff. Of course, it will. Will supply be able to cope? That's the issue. If the world can get together, yes, it will. But I don't think the world is at the moment. Supply around the world, stuff that's made abroad, brought over to the UK is not happening as much as it was once. So remember, supply shock, inflation. So be careful of that. Make sure that your clients and you are aware of inflation that's coming up in the future. So anyway, enough of all that. Let's get into some good topics, shall we, today? Let's get into some topics today, and then we'll carry on recording afterwards as well, and we'll upload those to YouTube because we want to keep as much information with you as possible, really, which is the key to the whole thing, isn't it? Okay, let's talk about let's get into the topic of pension contributions. Then I want to take a look at the disruptor in the investment market called Vanguard. And then we're going to finish off with a little bit obituary to Bernie Madoff, open brackets, with your money, close brackets. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So pension contributions is the topic now. So let's put our little title up here for you. We're talking about personal pension contributions here. And when we talk about personal pensions, now we generally talk about SIPs nowadays. They tend to be the be-all and end-all. Although you read the CMAP book, they still talk about stakeholder pensions, don't they? So contributions is the key. I just want to sort of brush up with you how to make contributions to personal pension. The reason for that is that Shelley and I are looking towards our next 15, 20 years of retirement. Now, with massive inflation about to rear its ugly head, of course, the key is to buy assets, stocks, shares, property, that sort of thing. Gold, Bitcoin, possibly, but I wouldn't go there. But gold's a good one as well. So we're talking about investing some of our money in the next 15, 20 years for our retirement, which is a damn good thing to do, really, think about it. Now, we're talking about holiday lets. I've mentioned it many times before. Holiday let versus personal pension plan is the key, really. And we're putting together some money, which is a deposit on a property, and we're putting together sort of 75 or so grand as a deposit. We're saving that up on a holiday let, so you can get your mortgage on top of that. That's the point. So of course that has many advantages because we buy a lovely house or cottage or whatever down in the southwest, and we rent it out, earn some money that way, pay the mortgage that way as well. Might make a bit of a profit, but I doubt it very much. We'll keep that profit low for tax purposes, of course. But the point is, it's a capital growth. Yes, it's a second property. There's capital gains tax, but you can remortgage these things. You can equity release on them in the future. So buying an asset is good news as far as we're concerned. However, Shelley did say to me the weekend, what's the alternative, Paul? And I think she's worrying a bit about the workload involved in running a holiday let because it's a business. And I would help out, obviously, as well. I said, well, the alternative I said is just throw it into my SIP because I've still got a SIP, you see. My IFA Charlie organises that for me. And she said, how can that be done? I said, well, it can be done. You can put money in. So the question is, can I put 75 grand into my SIP this tax year, which is 21/22? And the answer to that is yes, I can. And here's the rules for you. First of all, let's get a different colour here. Let's go over here. But you can, if you wanted to, you can put up to 40 grand into your pension, into your personal pension. That's your contributions and your employer's contributions if you're lucky enough for them to pay it for you as well. In order to get you tax relief, you are limited to £40,000 or your annual income. If your annual income's more than £40,000, then obviously that's not a problem. If you haven't got an annual income, then it's £3,600. But 40 grand is the key figure along the way. Now, that figure does get adjusted in two situations. First of all, if you're mega rich, and if you earn an adjusted income of over £240,000, which is a huge salary, isn't it? Then that reduces right down to 4 grand, because you can put more money into your pension, but you just won't get tax relief. Which is the key to the whole thing, isn't it? Because somebody earning that sort of figure is getting 45% tax relief, so you probably don't need it, do they? Think about it. It's probably the argument. Also, if you take your money out in the form of an UF plus, uncrystallised funds pension fund release thing product, UF plus I call it, unfunded pension lump sum and FAD, flexible access drawdown. If you use one of those methods to take your money out early, and you take money out more than your tax-free lump sum, then you will get reduced down to the 4 grand as well. So that can reduce to £4,000 quite considerably quickly. So you've got to be careful with that one. Now, the other thing about that is there is an annual allowance, which I mentioned, but there's a lifetime allowance as well, which you have to look up, but it's quite a few, it's over 1 million, isn't it? Just check the latest figures. Now, that means that you can pay this into your pension, but if you build up a fund more than a lifetime allowance, then you're going to be taxed on that when you eventually take your money. Now, the big thing is, though, that's 40 grand. I want to put 75 grand in, so there's a problem there, isn't there? So what you do now is you utilise what they call the carry forward allowance. Now, carry forward actually has been around for quite a few years, the carry forward allowance. And what it allows you to do for this tax year, which is 21-22, of course, because we're banging that one. So long as your salary supports it, you've got to earn the money, of course, to get the tax. You've got to be earning 75 grand to be able to pay in. But you carry forward up to 3 years of unused allowance. So you make the payment this year, or what you can do, and then you go back to the previous 3 years and you bring forward unused allowances. Now, I haven't put anything in my pension the last couple of years, so I've got plenty of unused allowance that I can bring forward. So that's the answer. So using carry forward then allows me quite quickly to pay in the 75 grand into my SIP, and that will go into the funds that I have, stocks and shares, and hopefully do okay. So let's give Charlie a ring. Now, before Charlie starts salivating, of course, because there's fund management fees involved here, then I need to obviously wait and think, because it's a big decision. It's a big decision to be able to do that. Because hey, what do you go for? So let me know what you would go for in that situation. Would you buy a nice little holiday let down the south coast, or would you just throw the money into a pension and not worry about doing any contacting people who want to cancel or emailing somebody that wants to book for the following weekend and all that palaver? But hey, it all depends on what your preferences are. So that's a little update there for you on pension contributions. Hope that's been a good update for you. Great. Okay, nice little topic video, isn't it? Next topic for you is, I keep banging on about this, but every sector gets disrupted at some point. You think about it, every sector in the whole industry has been disrupted by modernisation, by the internet. And I keep talking about fund management being disrupted, and it's beginning to now, starting to rear its head. And IFAs and wealth planners, wealth managers need to be aware of this, because your little gravy train is probably coming to an end now. So think about this. Just give you some facts, figures, see what you think about this one. Now, I'm calling this one Vanguard. And if you're in the know, of course, Vanguard is a massive fund manager, which looks after money, American based, but massive fund manager with billions under management, and pretty good at it. And I'm talking here about Vanguard Wealth Management. So we're talking about managing your money, managing your wealth, and I'm calling this the disruptor. There you go. So see what you think of this one, eh? See what you think of this sort of topic for you to get your teeth into. Now, traditional IFAs, of course, independent financial advisors, make their money by giving financial advice on pensions, investments mostly. They don't tend to get involved in mortgages and protection. That tends to be dealt with by other people. And most of them nowadays tend to deal with high net worth clients, and they either take fees or they take what's called a fund management charge from the money under management. Most tend to operate that way. Now, you're taking the fund management charge out of the fund because your fund is being managed. obvious, really, isn't it? It's been managed in what they call an active fund. So a fund manager then, let's just put in here a picture of a fund manager then. A fund manager, he or she will look after a large amount of money under management. And these are known as active funds because they're actively managed by a manager. That she or he will buy and sell shares, often called stock pickers. Used to be called that, didn't it? Sounds like pop pickers from the 70s, isn't it? Radio 1, pop pickers. But they pick stocks, they choose the right investments for you. Because what they're aiming to do is to beat the indexes, beat the FTSE 100, NASDAQ, things like that. And if they do well, they charge accordingly for that. And yeah, great. If you're going to do really well, if you're going to beat the index, then yes, you should charge. And that's how it works. Now, in the modern parlance in fund management, we call these things platforms or fund supermarkets. Now, a platform, and I put this term up there for you, is the modern way of investing your money in stocks and shares and gilts and stuff like that. And it is like a supermarket basket. They call them fund supermarkets. Imagine going to the supermarket and Tesco's with your basket, and you're wheeling this basket around. You're just putting food into this basket, aren't you? And you're taking some out if you don't like it, and you end up paying for it. But this basket is not a bad metaphor because a fund basket or a supermarket or a platform will hold investments. It's managed by a company. Vanguard have got them, of course. Hargreaves Lansdown, they've all got them. And they have all your funds under one roof, pretty much. That's how it works. And you can move your funds around. You get a dashboard on the computer. You're able to see what's going on. So that's the modern way of doing things in the form of a platform. Now, it's all done execution only. In other words, you don't choose, if you like. So let's draw a little picture for your platform there. You have your funds, whatever it is. It's all done execution only. You have what's called best buys, best buy tables. A bit like Amazon, isn't it? This is what we recommend, sponsored or whatever it is. But they have best buys. There's loads of analysis going on. There's tons of information you can go into if you want to in order to decide which one you want. But it's execution only. There's no advice in a platform, effectively. You decide what you want to buy, which is great if you think about it. So you've got funds here being managed, and you can have many different funds in a platform, and that's how it all works. Now, the costs, this is the big one. So I'm going to do some red now. What's the cost? Well, pretty high at the moment. So first of all, you get a platform fee of typically £100 per annum. That's just the fee or monthly to actually run the platform, and that goes to the manager or the company that runs it for you. So Hargreaves Lansdown or Vanguard will get that money. You've also got a trading fee. Every time you move funds around, there's a trading fee. It might be 10 quid or whatever it is for trading, which is not a lot of money, really. It depends if you want to be moving these things around quickly. But the big cost is the fund fee, the actual fee for managing the fund, which, as you can appreciate, is this one over here. So the manager who manages the fund, she manages the fund, the team managers, they get a fund fee. And it can be quite expensive if it's an actively managed fund. If it's not actively managed, it's known as passive. Opposite to active, isn't it? A passive fund is not managed by people, it's operated by computers, and they track indexes. So these funds in here then, get a different colour pen for you. These funds in here, you can have an active one if you wanted to, or you can have a passive one. Now the passive one might just, for example, track the FTSE 100, but they're a bit more complicated than that. You get all sorts of different indexes that track various funds, but a computer basically just copies the index. It doesn't have a person who's designed to outperform the indexes as these active funds do. So you've got a computer basically managing. So therefore, it doesn't need much money. So the actual fund management charge on these passive funds is a lot lower. And the argument is that over time they tend to beat anyway. There's very few active funds that actually beat the passive stuff. There's all sorts of research to show that, although they'll probably want to argue the case. Hedge funds, for example, they get involved in derivatives and futures and stuff like that. They tend to beat them, but even they don't do it all the time. Your Neil Woodfords of the world, who was a bit of a star, he came tumbling down, didn't he, because his funds stopped performing, all told. So you've got to look at all these things. It's the cost that's key to the whole thing. So do you need management of fund is the key, really, isn't it? Do you want your funds managed? And that's where this disruption is starting. This disruption. Because computers do a damn good job, and computers are getting more and more intelligent at doing it for you. Enter, let's get a drum roll, shall you? Do you like my drum roll there for you? Enter the drum roll of Vanguard, who have come in now with an exceedingly tantalizing offering, which is going to disrupt the sector. Now, I'll show you how this works. Vanguard, of course, a huge company, very well recommended, to be around since the 70s, I think 1970s. So they've got the brand, they've got the reputation. And they bought in this new platform. So they're operating a platform via Vanguard. So let's just put those details down here for you. Remember, Vanguard is just the firm that runs the platform. What they're doing with this platform, if you've got 50 grand or more to invest, which is not an awful lot of money, actually I've got some for my SIP or for my holiday let, they will take your money. They will give you an online questionnaire to complete, which is pretty much a questionnaire which will determine your risk attitude, your goals, your risk appetite, that sort of thing. And then their computer will then decide on funds for you. It's their funds, don't get me wrong, it's not anybody else's funds, obviously, but they're all passive funds. That's the key thing to it. They're all passive funds. So they're cheaper to run. But cleverly, they've actually brought a bit of AI in this as well, a bit of artificial intelligence into this as well. So they've got artificial intelligence and they've got passive funds. Now remember, the passive fund just tracks an index and anything else. It's not intelligent, really. It's just copies. But the AI is intelligent. So what they do is automatically each year, the AI steps in and starts to recalibrate things, rebalances things according to the tax year. So it maximizes your ISA limits, for example, and your tax limits and your personal allowances and stuff like that, because it knows all about you because you've done a questionnaire, haven't you? So it moves things around a little bit automatically. Now, if you've got a lot of dosh, if you've got over £100,000, there's a team of people who step in as well to manipulate some stuff, which is great. And if you've got more than 750 grand, there's loads of, you get your own personal concierge almost, because you're obviously mega rich. But for the most people who've got sort of 50 grand or so to invest, they have computers do it for them. Now, here's the clever part. The cost of this, and I've got this quoted, is 0.79% per annum, all in. Now, Google that. See what others are charging. Typically 1.25%, 0.5% ongoing management fee as well. There's all sorts of costs involved here. That fee is coming in. It'll go down with competition. And that's all in. That's the platform charge, the trading fees, the fund management fees, Vanguard, etc. So that actually is not a bad deal. Think about it. So, IFAs beware. Be careful, because this is coming in now, and competition will drive that figure down. There's not a lot of people involved here, therefore they can keep their costs down. Would you do that, or would you go and talk to an IFA for your wealth advice? Probably if you've got loads and loads of money, you go and talk to an IFA. And why not? You get personalised attention and you get looked after properly, etc., etc. And that's great. And they're obviously independent, so they can go to different platforms for your investments as well. But, it makes you think. Young people, for example, my son does. He uses an app on his phone. Not sure who he's with, but he's got a platform. And he doesn't invest a huge amount of money. He doesn't talk to humans. He doesn't like talking to humans. He's because that's his way, and that's fine. He uses an app. He uses AI. He understands that. Well, what people, the young generation, will come through on that basis. So disruption's beginning to happen. It's happening to our whole sector, and I'll keep you posted how things are going. Interesting, isn't it? There we have Vanguard, the disruptor. Hope you found it useful. Bye. Great. Or not, of course, if you're an IFA by trade, which some of you, of course, are. So, yeah, you need to work with these things, of course. You need to have the tech to help you. It's the way things are going. You need to work it through, pick up some ideas, keep yourself ahead of the curve, as they say. And that, of course, brings us on to the last topic. Yeah, let's just get a little white there for you. Bit dirty there, isn't it? Comes to the last topic for you, which I read about the weekend. Actually, it's quite a sad story. When anybody dies, that's always sad. Of course, it is. You can't knock that one. And this final little one for you, I call it Bernie Madoff. Yeah, Bernie Madoff. You probably remember the name, Bernie Madoff. And I put in brackets your money. And if you can obviously look at the English, you might have a little chuckle at that one. Bernie Madoff with your money. And that's exactly what happened. He died actually last week, 14th of April, I think it was, week before last, age 82. And he died in prison. He was serving a 150-year sentence for fraud. That's a pretty big sentence, that, isn't it? So, yeah, not bad endings. So Bernie Madoff, of course, very famous for his Ponzi scheme, where he made off with millions, if not more money, of people's hard-earned cash. Now, the thing about Bernie Madoff is that he was incredibly trustworthy at the time. People adored him. He was worshipped almost. He had massive trust built up over the years. He was involved in NASDAQ and the various New York stock exchanges. He was on associations, etc. Very well known guy as well. He had an exclusivity about him as well. So the only way you could get into his money was to be referred by somebody else who already was a client. I think it was appointments by introduction only. I've seen that on IFA's cards before as well. And he's kind of like a clubhouse, really. Only club members could get in. And that's how it worked. Now, Ponzi schemes, of course, are totally illegal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not so supporting them in any shape or form. But what happened with Bernie's scheme was quite simple, really. He had people clamoring to invest their money with him. Remember, he had this fantastic reputation. He was paying upwards of 15% per annum to people compound. So that's a pretty damn good rate. Now, that's obviously, this was in the 90s, early noughties and stuff like that. So, it was good returns. So lots of people wanted to put their money into his funds, which he had very opaque way of promoting them. Nobody knew how he did it. It didn't really matter because everyone trusted him. That was the key behind it. So people put their money in. New investors would pay in their dollars. He was an American dude, of course. And the dollars would go into the fund, but they wouldn't. Before they went into the fund, they went into three places, really. The first place they went into is they went to pay percentage returns to all the investors. This 15% was paid out of the money people paid in. You see the scam, can't you? It was also used for redemptions. So anybody that wanted their money out, he paid them from money coming in. So it's pretty clever, isn't it? And he always paid up as well. People wanted to redeem, they always got their money. But of course, it also went to fund beach houses and things like that. and his Porsches and his private jets and everything like that, because Bernie had it all. And this went on for years. Of course, he had this fund, or he supposedly had this fund of billions of dollars, which he didn't. That was the whole point. It was a complete fallacy. There was nothing there. It was all just spent. It was incredible. This went on for years. And it took the financial crash in 2008, when the whole financial market just collapsed, systemic collapse, of course, and everybody wanted their money back. And he had a rush of people requiring their money, a rush of redemptions. I think he had something like $12 billion in redemptions were requested, and he didn't have the money. He couldn't pay it because nobody else was putting new money in. This is 2008. Everybody went out, so it became obvious what he was doing, and he was convicted and sent to jail. So that's Bernie Madoff with yourmoney.com. People lost a lot of money, a huge amount of money, and still it's never been paid back, because it wouldn't have been, would it? Because he spent it on beach houses and things like Long Island, very nice as well. Which gives you the next sort of port of call, really. The next thought, recommendation, call it what you like, is when something looks too good to be true, it often is. So this 15% return in this fund, just too good to be true. There's something going on there. So anything you look upon on the internet, if it looks too good to be true, be careful, of course. That goes down to finding a mortgage advisor, being a mortgage advisor, buying training online, and so whatever it is. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. You've got to be very careful of these sort of things. And obviously this kind of fraud Ponzi scheme, the regulators are getting rid of left, right and centre. But hey, there'll be another one crop up at some point. It always is. So God bless you, Bernie. Rest in peace. There you go. Alrighty, so all good here. Hope all good for you. We're coming back next week. Remember, we'll help you out as much as we can. We've got a YouTube channel here to help you. We've got our boot camp and our CMAP products, everything going on for you. Boot camp started last week. If you wanted to get on that one, you still can. Got another one starting up in June. Lots of people wanting to become mortgage advisors. I'm helping tons of people, by the way, with their skills involved in being a mortgage advisor. Talked about before, passing the exam is pretty the easy part. How to set up a business, how to get business, how to get clients, how to set yourself up as employed, self-employed, how to keep yourself motivated, sales process, everything tech, online, everything. So it's there that we're helping people as much as possible, because the mortgage market, housing market, is going to it's going to boom. All these first-time buyers coming on, and it's great to see it. It's really good, because that's what we need, people to buy their own homes. Indeed. Enough of that. I've talked for a little bit longer than normal. We'll catch you next week. Hope you're all well, and speak to you soon.